Come on a journey with me, Bree Lawrenson, where we talk about the stories behind the scenes in the music industry. Grab a drink or four. This is your front row ticket in to the distillery with me, Bree. I'm so excited to announce the launch of my Patreon. Join and get early access to new music, exclusive content, and podcast episodes early, cool gifts, Zoom hangout sessions, handwritten song lyrics, and even a songwriting session with me. Check me out, Bree Lawrenson on Patreon.
Welcome back to another episode of The Distillery with Bree. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you are all enjoying these stories on the many roads that Bree has been on. Please keep liking our podcast. Please keep subscribing to the podcast. That means the absolute world to us. Leave your comments. Share these podcasts with your friends, aunts, uncles, cousins, your mother, your father. Okay. So please, thank you guys very, very much for allowing us to come into your cars or your homes.
Thank you, guys. Before
I keep moving forward, let's introduce our host today, Bree. Bree, how are you?
Good. I'm good. How are you?
Good. How's motherhood been the past few weeks? Our son is sick again for the millionth time, and it's only March.
Yeah. But, it's keeping me on my toes, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's keeping me out of trouble at all, but... I'm busy. It's hard to,
busy all the time.
Yeah, it's hard to balance the lives, of work and then becoming a parent, being there for your kid. Oh, my goodness.
We are fucking crushing it, though, so kudos to us.
I think so.
So what are we talking about today? Today we're talking about the time that Bree went to Nashville and sang for Martina, McBride's producer.
Yeah, I was actually supposed to work with him on a big project.
But let's not jump ahead here, as Bree likes to do.
Wow.
Let's first paint a picture of where we are in your career. So what year is it? Where are we with singles being released? Where are we with, trips to Nashville at this point?
Well, I can tell you that we lived here in this house. Okay. Like, it wasn't near the beginning of all the, big things that happened for me with the radio support and stuff like that. It was a few years into that. Like, I made my first Nashville studio album in 2014. We lived in the apartment then. And my opportunity to work with him, it came from, I think, my going to Nashville to record my second album.
So you recorded your first album, you said, in 2014.
That's right,
and then.
And then so I had recorded my first album, which was Believe, all in Nashville. And that was like basically the beginning of when I started going back and forth to Nashville. So I was writing with a lot of people, and I had met at that point, like leading up to him, meeting this producer. I had worked with a lot of people, like a lot of different marketing agencies. Well, there was a PLA Media in Nashville, and she was awesome. She was actually Garth Brooks' manager in the, I don't know, in the 80s or the 90s, or when Garth Brooks became, Garth Brooks.
Ridiculously amazing and famous.
Yeah, and so I met her at PLA Media in Nashville, and that's kind of when it all started. And I started writing with this he had a publishing deal, this writer, and he was great. We wrote two or three songs that were on the first studio album in Nashville called Believe, which you can get on Spotify.
Hell yeah.
It's got over 100,000 streams.
Brag about it.
So, well, you know what? I ain't got a label that's going to do it for me, okay?
All right. So
I have to be my own advocate here.
So you're working with PLA Media. and then this is the agency that you were talking, kind of getting to know Martina McBride's producer.
Yeah, so this is leading up.
Yeah.
And I know that you love it when I ramble and draw the story.
You gotta give the listeners, right? Our listeners have to fully understand the story, and we have to break it down for them.
Well, it's important.
It is. Hell yeah. It paints a picture.
Yeah.
You're like Picasso. I'm like Picasso,
I like it.
So sorry, go on.
So PLA Media was that was my first step into the actual industry, finding the right people to write with as a songwriter in Nashville, because she had connections. And that's when I wrote with Bo Fuller, who you remember Bo. But anyway, he was a great writer, and he was signed, or he had a publishing deal and everything. So we we hit it off, and we wrote some songs, and we recorded in his studio. And that's actually how I found the studio that I recorded both of my albums, all of my music in Nashville was through him. So PLA Media, my songwriting friend, and that leads me to the main studio in Nashville that I use every time I go. And when I was looking for somewhere to record in Nashville, I was looking for the right person to record with, right?
Yeah.
And my biggest inspiration growing up, being a singer, was Martina McBride. You've listened
to her obviously since you were
since you were
younger.
Yeah, since I was a kid. I remember. I don't know. So she's 90s country.
Yeah.
She was hugely famous with Garth Brooks, and
they toured together.
Obviously, I don't know. They might have. I don't know. But I've seen Martina in concert live. I actually touched her hand.
Oh, did you wash it after?
No, yeah.
Just put a bag over it and just not wash it for a while.
And also my face was on the big screen in the stadium when I touched her hand.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so I was like, well, how old was I?
That's wicked.
18. Oh my gosh. It was like a dream come true. So what actually happened is that we were at the concert, and we had bad tickets, bad seats.
You were way in the 300 levels, way up, way in the back.
Yeah. And then I think we were walking to our seats, and this guy comes up, and he's like, "Hey, I'm a part of the Martina McBride street team, and we want you to be on the floor."
Oh, you're two hot young women. So they're like, please, come forward.
Right on the front stage. And he's like, do you want to come? And I'm like, yeah. So
who would say no? No, thank you. We don't want to come closer and watch Martina McBride.
No, we're here to have a good time, And being closer to her was the excitement was just huge, because I had loved her so much. Her songs, I grew up listening to. I grew up singing them, Wild Angels and Love's the Only House. I used to sing that song on stage when I was a little girl for all kinds of fairs and festivals, and I just knew every single word. And I looked up to her because of her vocals. She could sing, and she said she's little but she's loud, and she actually sang a song that said, "I'm little but I'm loud."
Oh, really? I don't think I've heard that.
No, you probably haven't, babe.
Well, I'll listen to it.
Well, she actually sang that song when she So I don't know. I felt like I could relate to her. And being I'm a short 5 foot woman, so I've always been petite, and I always wanted to have a big, huge voice like Martina McBride, Christina Aguilera, Whitney Houston. But anyways, Martina was the big one for me for country music. So anyways, I kind of got sidetracked with that story.
That was fun, though. That was good. I like that. That's tidbits you only get on the podcast.
There you go. So anyways, so much fun at the concert. But on my journey in Nashville, I worked with, I think 3 different agencies on connecting me with hit writers, connecting me with real industry people. So the one agency I was working with, they connected me with Martina McBride's producer, basically. Yeah. Basically, he was the producer when she was really like a star. Like she was just hitting the charts.
So, like, we're talking 90s?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So he was her main producer.
Yeah.
Was he still working with her at that point?
No. So he had recorded like her main,
like main albums that went multi-platinum or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. He had worked with her on songs like "Where Would You Be," which was like one of my favorite songs off of one of her.
And he was just a producer, so he wasn't a writer. He just produced the album, or did he help write some of the songs?
No, he had a hand in helping write.
Oh, really?
And actually, he also works with who is it? Oh, Lady A. They're not called
Lady Antebellum, or
Lady Antebellum. Yeah. So when I met him, he was in the middle of working with them, or
he was producing an album for them.
It was really? The album that, like, their first one, "Run to You." It was there was their first big album that he did. And anyway, when I got to meet him,
well, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. So you work with these producers, and they connected you. So you kind of got connected via email or something like that, or you just called them up and said, "Hey, Mr. Producer, like, let's do this." Like,
no, so that's what the agency is for.
So they just set it up, and then you just go.
They set you up a meeting.
So how does the agency work then? So you go to them and say, "Hey, I want to write with writers."
Yeah.
Right, and then they say, do they ask kind of what's your style or something, or
no? He would. Well, when I got to meet him in person, and that's what the agency was for, like, to set up the in-person meet. So you pay these agencies to
Oh, so you paid them?
Yeah.
So you paid these agencies to set you up with writers?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And
then do the writers get the writers?
The writers or the producers. So.
They obviously, but I mean, the people writing a song with you would obviously get a cut of that song.
Well, yeah. Any writers always get their own cut. Especially in Nashville, it's always 50-50.
So you pay to write with them, and then you pay them if their song makes big. They also get money off that.
So I would pay the agency to connect me with the writer. I don't pay the writer to write with.
But I'm sure they get a cut.
That I don't know.
Really?
I think these writers, they
try to write that one song. I guess.
Work.
Yeah. To get that one song to hit big.
Yes,
and then
like writing credits is different than something that you're paying for in the industry. Like when you're a writer, you get 50%, especially in Nashville. Everyone in the room, if there's 3, if there's 4, if there's 2, they all get the same percent.
So it's always split equally.
Yeah,
okay.
which was really cool. It was just something that I learned when I became on this crazy journey, just running all over Nashville with my head cut off, trying to find people to write with. But,
so before we get to this, like before we get to writing with singing for Martina McBride's producer, could you take us through like one writing session that you did?
Oh yeah.
But did you ever have like a weird one or anything, or?
Yeah, there wasn't.
Because hold on a second, before we get there, it's because it's weird, right? I mean, you're
just meeting this person for the first time.
Yeah, like you're a young girl, right, in Nashville, and you're this company is setting you up to write with somebody at a location of their choosing.
Yeah, usually.
Right, so it's someone's, because I'm sure you've not just done it at offices, right? There's probably homes or,
I haven't. So what there is there's like. So when you go on Music Row in Nashville, there's studios, but there's also like places for exactly that, like what we're talking about, like songwriting houses. Okay. So say like BMI.
So no one lives there?
No, it's just for songwriting or recording. So you can all kinds of like little studios and stuff.
Crazy.
I remember meeting this one writer at a record label on Music Row. to write, and then he ended up being a head of A&R for Kelsey Ballerini.
But we're not going to get into that one, because that one's a cool one.
But yeah,
so let's not get into that one, because that's a story on its own.
But that's the thing, and like you bring up a really good point of discussion, is that you don't know anything about this person when you get in the room with them,
that's
and it's
what I'm
almost
saying. Yeah, and I don't mean for it to sound like, oh, it's weird. Like, it's weird to me because it's a different concept to me, right?
Because you've never done it.
Yeah. So it's foreign to me.
Being vulnerable with a complete stranger is like...
Well, you have to go and literally open up your heart to this person to write, to kind of get stuff out of each other, right? Like, you're telling each other, I'm sure, some the deepest, personal feelings that you've had, right?
It's like a therapy session
exactly.
that you're having with a complete stranger.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it can be really, like, just kind of off-putting or awkward.
Take us to one that you thought was weird or felt different, or...
So, one that I didn't really jive with. Oh, this one, it was like one of the first guys that I wrote with, and he basically we sat there and we just talked. Like, we never actually discussed what we wanted to write. It was just like he just kind of kept on going on and on about his life. And I mean, some of the sessions are like that. Like, sometimes you get into... So one
person does more talking or something?
Well, sometimes you get into a room with someone and then you just start talking, and then it's more like, okay, let's, write about this, but like after a certain point, like you want to get to know the person. Some people are like that.
Okay.
And sometimes the first writing session can just be like a hangout session.
Just to get to know each other.
Exactly.
And kind of... But to write with them again, would you have to pay the agency again? Or are you connected at that point?
No, the agency had connected
just makes the initial
us.
connection.
That's what it does. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so then, of course, we follow each other on social media.
And talk to each other and reach out. Yeah.
So there was one, and then there was also one girl that I wrote with that she kind of took my song. So I had this beautiful song. At least I thought it was like a beautiful idea. And she kind of turned it into a totally different feel than I wanted, but I didn't want to like offend her,
Mm-hmm.
And like that happens sometimes. You don't want to offend the person, but you're like, dang, like this was my song idea, and like now it turned into something that I didn't want it to.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff happens all the time, but then there's ones that happen like Guts and God when I wrote with D, and he was like, it was just like, this is what it is, bang, bang, bang.
And I think further down the road, we'll maybe that could be a bonus episode for our Patreon members. Is writing is your is a podcast released to our Patreon members about you writing that song, because that is a song that's wrenches at your heartstrings.
Yeah,
and will make
and there's
a
like
grown
a
man
whole
cry.
back end story.
And there's a back end story that connects with children's hospitals, which is something you were very, very happy to be a part of.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun to do. That'll be fun to do for sure.
Yeah, he was an amazing.
So back to
dude.
This girl. So it just didn't jive. Like, it just wasn't.
Yeah. So that was a different agent. So the agency that connected me with my first writers, they connected me with her at one point. And I was like, yeah, like I was thinking to myself, I was more into the writing aspect, like the lyric aspect of it, than she was. Like, all she really wanted to do was just sit there and kind of, like add words. But anyway, we just didn't really vibe. Yeah. But I'm not really a confrontational person until I have to be. And then, so I just thought, okay, this is another learning experience. It's just like everything else.
Yeah.
You're not gonna write a hit song every time you write with someone.
But wasn't there one, I remember it was kind of right when we were first getting together or something like that, or whatever. You drove up to a house, but you just didn't feel comfortable or something?
Yeah. So that was like my first trip to Nashville, first or second maybe. And yeah, I found what I started doing when I was started going to Nashville was looking online for industry executives that I could get in touch with to have meetings with.
Yeah.
And I connected with a bunch of people. I actually found this directory of like Music Row online, and I literally went through.
You emailed everybody.
And I emailed everyone, and some of these guys got back to me, some of them didn't, and that's why we ended up meeting with Taylor Swift, marketing guy. Because I went out of my thinking was, and you helped me with this too, to think, I'm definitely not going to meet these people if I don't reach out.
Goddamn right.
Like, if you don't try, it's always going to be a no.
Goddamn right.
So you just,
keep punching, man.
Yeah. So that was my whole mentality when I guess that led me to my Nashville stuff but
back to this house. So
meeting these writers, I don't know. I was a young girl, and
you're probably early 20s, eh?
Yeah, like 24.
Yeah, mid 20s.
And like still lived at home, just kind of living with mom, and then going to Nashville every few months, and then coming back home. But yeah, I didn't feel comfortable because they wanted to meet at a house, and it was 2 other men, older men, and I was new to this whole writing thing in Nashville.
Those feelings are valid. Those feelings are very valid.
Yeah, I had that little bit of something. My intuition was just not cool with it, so I canceled on them.
Yeah,
but I canceled, and I think they were upset, but.
But at the same time, your feelings, it's you have to. I think it was a good,
when you're a young girl in a big city that you don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, that's been
chances.
That's why it's even harder for women, in this industry, in any industry.
Yeah.
Because.
So, we get to meet the producer, right?
Yeah.
So you go down to Nashville. Never met him before. Haven't talked to him. Where did you guys meet?
We met at the agency that I was working with. They have like a studio right in Nashville. So
you walked in and you were just like, "Hey, good to meet you."
Yeah.
Shook his hand and you're like, "Let's write a hit song."
No, I was like, "Wow, yeah, like it's so amazing to meet you." Like,
so
you have
knew
no
who
idea.
He was. Like, you knew his name, so obviously you knew who he was and everything going into it. Okay.
And I said, I've been listening to the work that you've done since I was a little kid. Like you work with Martina McBride. She is literally my favorite voice, my favorite artist of all time. And I can't believe I had so many questions about the songs. Like, when did you write? Where will you be? Where would you be? Like, what was that about? Like, what was it like working with her when she hit that note? The high on an E sound, like an E shape. Like, it's really hard to hit high notes in that.
Can he hit like one similar to it?
Turn
down
your if you weren't here with me.
Nice. Your face. Nice. I was gonna be like, turn down your radio, or turn down the volume.
Yeah, well, the baby's sleeping, so I've learned to tone it down.
That's awesome. So you introduce yourself, you kind of let him know all this. He just says thank you,
and
obviously.
I'm trying my hardest not to act like a total idiot. Yeah.
And then you guys sit down and kind of start belting out some feelings?
So, yeah, we had that first meeting, and then we planned to meet up again the next day on Music Row.
So how was that first initial meeting, though? Was that...
It was
just
great.
Like, it was just a meet and greet kind of thing?
Yeah,
like it wasn't anything...
it was me and him and the person that connected us in the office, because they were friends, and actually, he told me, we got to talking about how the artists that I loved, and... Carolyn Dawn Johnson is one of them, and she is a Canadian singer-songwriter. She actually, sings backup for Miranda Lambert. And she's an amazing songwriter, and he knew her too.
CDJ,
and he was almost going to take me over to her house. He goes, I think I could just like show up with you, and she wouldn't care. Like,
nice accent, by the way.
So I'm trying to get into it, but I haven't been to Nashville in a bit.
It's been a while.
Usually when I come home, I get it.
I know. It's like your southern drawl.
Yeah, the southern drawl. He was talking about her like she was just his friend that he'd like call up and like show up.
Well, I'm sure they are. It sounds like they are. Yeah.
Which was really like amazing to me. Like, I just couldn't believe that I was meeting this person that like made all that helped make all that success for those women, for those women.
Yeah.
And then, so we talked about meeting up again the next day. So we did. And, I brought my guitar and I sang.
How long was your first meeting with him? Just like
maybe an hour.
An hour? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So yeah, so you meet the next day.
And of course, I was like so nervous.
And you guys met on Music Row in a studio?
In one of the places that he works with. Yep. Yeah. Another agency, a publishing agency. They have all kinds of songwriting rooms and stuff on Music Row. So I met him, and he was wanting to hear my songs. He wanted to hear me play my music, and so I played him like Canadian Pearl,
nice.
Hell on High Heels, With You Whiskey. And he actually said to me, you know, your voice is just like Martina McBride's.
I feel like you just
And I'm like, just don't. Just stop. He's like, you know, the soulful, like, the soulfulness, the richness, and, you know, just let it go. Like, there's a little bit of resistance, he said, in your chest voice. And you have to just kind of get up and learn how to use your mixed voice more, which I knew exactly what he was talking about. Because,
yeah, and, you know,
like, I'm
like
a
we
singer.
all do, obviously. No, you want to explain
but
it,
you
maybe?
know what I thought the coolest thing about it was that he knew what to say to me. He knew what to say to me so that I would understand what he was saying. Like, he was talking to me like he was talking, like he was a vocal coach.
Yeah.
So he was a producer who had worked with a lot of lead vocal singers, and he totally
understands.
And I thought, yes, like this is the way that I would work.
So what does that mean exactly?
The mixed voice?
Yeah.
So we could do a whole episode on that too if you want.
Give us like a 30-second breakdown.
Okay, so there's three different cavities that you can resonate your voice in through. The hardest thing to do is be able to switch between them without exposing the break in your voice. Okay. So it has to be like effortless. So your chest voice would come from your chest. If you put your hand on your chest when you're talking and it's vibrating, that's your chest voice. It's your sort of your lower register, and then your mixed voice is like up in here. It's like like up in your
for those of us who can't see Bree, she's pointing to her eyes, basically, like her sinuses area.
And then the top part, that's your falsetto, is called your head voice, which is like, you know, like all those whistle-y stuff.
Okay, so he said that
like, he knew all of that.
You guys knew what you guys were talking to each other about.
And, we were hitting it off. You know, we were like getting on like a house on fire.
So he liked the songs, like he enjoyed the songs.
He loved my songwriting. Yeah. And so the crazy thing was, like, I didn't really know how to express, like, to him that I needed to know, like, how much money it was going to cost to work with him.
You wanted him to produce a song for you?
Because we wanted to work together, and he would produce the song or album.
Also, what?
Yes, that's what's happening. That's what this is about. He wanted to be my producer.
Well, hold on. So you played the songs for him. He loved your voice, obviously, and said, "Hey, let's work together."
Let's work together. Okay. I have some other amazing writers I want to connect you with.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, all this, and I was like, "Yes, please, let's do it." And he gave me his cell phone number, which was a big deal because you don't just get those people's phone numbers.
Okay.
And they're. So I remember exiting the building from the back.
So you guys didn't write that day?
No, we didn't.
So you just played the song. You just played your songs for him. Okay.
Yeah, and we talked about.
So this wasn't meant to be a writing session.
No, well, no.
This was just a meet. You guys
meet and greet, and then we can
each other's company.
We can talk about you know, like my intentions for us working together.
Yeah.
I had some like investors that were willing to help me financially. But I didn't really have an idea of like how much it would cost to work with him. I knew, and I think I said something to him like, what kind of financials are we talking? Like, what's it going to be like how much am I going to have to pay for like the studio time and all this? And then he mentioned like, oh, well, it could be $100,000. Like it's very hard to know something like that.
Be like, well, what if we use the ones in the basement? You got some.
Well, what if I just
So he said it could
put
be
my
up to
house up for
$100,000.
sale?
He said it could be up to $100,000. But
Yeah.
I mean, but this guy, I'm sure, uses top of the line
Yeah.
gear, top of the line, writers
the
that he'll
best
bring
people.
in, works with the best people, will is a bang for his buck,
Yeah.
type of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So he told you that, and then you were taken back.
I was like, oh, okay,
Pretending
wow,
to be cool,
haha,
yeah.
And then I remember exiting the building and to myself thinking, fuck, that was so cool, but I'm never going to see him again.
Have you seen him since?
No.
No.
I messaged him that night after I left the studio. I went down to Demumbrium, where they have a really nice Irish bar, pub type. And I texted him and I was like, thank you so much for this amazing opportunity. It was awesome meeting you. Like, I can't wait to work together.
Yeah, good, awesome.
That, like, I said everything like that.
Yeah.
And there was no response.
No.
And never heard from my contact at the agency about it either.
Oh, really?
No. So
Did you still continue with the agency after that?
Yep, I had
Yeah.
I had a bunch of things set up with them already
Yeah,
for that
yeah.
trip. So I had a bunch of songwriting sessions
Booked and stuff.
booked
Yeah.
with them. Yep, and I got to write with all kinds.
You know what? That's such an amazing story, because
It is cool because it
it's-
shows you how close I was, and then all of a sudden, money.
Yeah.
Once it's like about money, then it's real.
that's where it becomes difficult.
Yeah, it's real. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's the resistance. You
Yeah,
know,
of course.
If like,
And but you know what? But rightfully so to some of these guys, right? Like a producer
Well,
to this
yeah,
caliber,
he needs to
of
make
course.
money.
Well, of course he needs to make money, but at the same time, again, this guy will get you to leaps that your voice probably didn't even know it could reach.
yeah, it would have
Right?
been amazing to.
It would have
know
been amazing.
what
of
he could have
course,
done.
Of course.
But the cool thing was he told me a lot of cool things that I didn't know, and
Yeah.
that I was getting firsthand from the guy who actually was in the studio with Martina McBride
Yeah.
when she sang those notes, and he told me like, how she used her voice and how she could have done it, in different ways in order to preserve it more and stuff like that. It was just
Did he
really
tell you anything
cool.
else about her?
Just that she was extremely talented.
Of course. Well, I mean, come on,
Like,
you don't need to be a genius.
And pretty nice girl.
Yeah.
I mean, she has an amazing back then, and she still now has an amazing husband. And he did actually mention that her husband was like a little bit on the forceful side in her career. Like,
okay.
kind of driving it a little bit
Driving
more,
her
maybe
career,
a
yeah.
little bit too much
Yeah.
at points. I remember him
Yeah.
saying that,
Yeah.
So Martina McBride's husband was, a little bit, like, go out, do this, do that, sing this, sing
Yeah.
that, kind of more in control.
Is he a musician himself?
I don't know. I think he
No?
was like her manager. He
Oh,
could
okay.
be.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, but it was cool to hear,
Yeah, that's
hear
awesome.
that from the guy that worked with one of my like idols.
Yeah, that's
growing
wicked.
up.
That's cool.
To be in the same room
That's
and
cool.
to always have that story and to learn that lesson,
I think
music
I think
business.
it's a very valuable lesson to learn for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Good. Any final notes to kind of close off this episode?
I
Yeah.
really love that you mentioned the Patreon.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys for exclusive direct messaging like with me.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever have questions that you want answered, or if you want your questions like on our next episode, join my Patreon. Let me know what your questions are. We'll answer you. We'll add you. Put your name in here. So yeah, it's another platform that we're definitely trying out.
Yeah.
As
for sure.
as opposed to TikTok.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But we're still doing TikTok too. So just check me out. You guys make sure you just share my music. That's the biggest thing, really.
We appreciate everybody and all of you for listening to another episode of The Distillery with Bree. As always, thank you, Tim, the producer.
Thanks, Tim.
Make sure to, again, like and subscribe. Leave a comment if your heart desires. Bree, what are your socials one more time?
Just follow me at BrieLawrenson.com, and you can follow all my socials there.
Awesome. Till 2 weeks from now. Peace.
Cheers.